Comedy Central standing by the comedian it's chosen to replace Daily Show host Jon Stewart. The decision follows a social media uproar over old tweets that Trevor Noah made about women, Jewish people, and race. Noah responded to the backlash saying, "To reduce my views to a handful of jokes that didn't land is not a true reflection of my character nor my evolution as a comedian." Joining me is Jason Johnson, political science professor at Hiram College and a columnist for NBC BLK, and Elahe Izadi, a reporter with the Washington Post. Elahe is also a stand-up comedian. So with a welcome to you both, we're going to go ladies first because I understand, Elahe, you typically cover Congress, but this week you wrote about Noah's tweets and you argued that people should overlook bad jokes by good comics. And you also said that comics will never tell biting and insightful jokes without being able to take risks, without being forever judged by them. So taking your comedian hat off, why are you willing to give Noah a pass?
Well, first of all, we have to put this into context. The tweets that landed him in hot water represent less than 1% of his entire Twitter feed. So to take those jokes out of the context of his entire feed and say these represent how he feels as an individual and as a comedian, I think is unfair. I would agree with him. Also, we have to realize that Twitter for comics is sort of like an open mic in a way. An open mic for a comedian is you go and you test out material. A lot of that material is not good. And let's be clear, these tweets that have gotten him into trouble are offensive and they're not good jokes. But these aren't jokes that he's taking to the stage, that he is recording in a special. I mean, if people have a right to be offended by them, certainly, but I don't think that these tweets are ones that should disqualify him from having this job. Okay.
Jason, you also wrote about the backlash and why you think Noah is the right fit for Comedy Central regardless of these tweets. What do you think is behind the backlash? Considering comics, including the current host Jon Stewart, they push the envelope all the time. And we should point out, Comedy Central is on a cable network. It's not broadcast TV. So, you know, should Noah have to apologize?
I don't think he should have to apologize at all. And like I said, Alex, I have been a fan of Trevor Noah for 3 or 4 years. I have a Pandora channel dedicated to him, actually. I've seen his work. Yes. There was a great documentary about him called You Laugh, But It's True. I saw it back in 2012. It's about his whole life in South Africa as he starts as a comic. I've been a huge fan of his for years. And the truth of the matter is, part of this backlash is because the American people think they're entitled now because we all have ownership of The Daily Show. It's not American Idol, okay? Comedy Central can pick whoever they want to pick to take the position, and if they were to back off on Trevor Noah because of this, no one would ever want that job again because they would see that the network wouldn't support them on any comedy that wasn't bland and boring.
Okay, let's look at one of Noah's tweets that was after the 2012 Olympics here, in which he said, "I will miss the Olympics. It's the one time when a group of black people can run with no suspicion." So, Elahe, in your stand-up material, you often joke about your Iranian background. When do you think cultural jokes cross the line?
Well, I mean, it's a question of who's listening, who's the audience, and all of that. And, you know, I do think that if you're a comedian and you're going to go out and you're going to tell a joke on a stage in a recorded special and present it as a show, then, yeah, you have to stand behind your material. Audiences have a right to be offended by it, and if they're not good jokes, audiences should express their displeasure because bombing is the best way that you can get better as a comedian. But it's, you know, I feel, and the point I make in the piece is that we are more forgiving of other kinds of artists when they make missteps, when they put out bad material, bad art. That doesn't mean that they're bad artists. And I feel like if a comedian goes out and tells a joke that is not good, but then goes on to tell a better joke or a joke that is really insightful and genius, then why should the previous joke disqualify or discredit the latter joke?
Okay. Given your Pandora channel, Jason, you're probably familiar with this, but the New York Times has this piece featuring the interviews that Noah gave way before the controversy started. He talks about growing up in an apartheid South Africa as a biracial child, how that's given him license to speak his mind as adults. So how much more license does he have because of what he has experienced? And might another comedian have potentially lost a job over this?
Yeah, I think there's a possibility that if you didn't have somebody who was coming from an international context, and again, if you're familiar with stand-up comedy, you know, from South Africa and New Zealand and Australia, they're much more cheeky, to use their term, than we are in the United States when it comes to race, when it comes to gender. You should see some of the jokes that Trevor Noah made about Oscar Pistorius. I mean, those were pretty outlandish as well. So I think his unique background is not only one of the reasons why he was selected, but it's also one of the reasons why he's defended. And let's be honest, The Daily show is one of the most internationally popular and downloaded shows from this country. They know he's going to be huge for bringing in an international audience during this next election cycle. That's the other reason they're going to stick with him.
Yeah, good point. Okay. Lahe and Jason, you guys, thanks so much. Have a great Sunday.
You too, thanks.
Revenge porn. It's a new crime.